Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the afternoon session of today's Introduction to the Adobe Suite training. This morning, we covered some logo design and we kind of just had a brief introduction to some of the apps that are offered in the Adobe Suite, and we kind of took a focus on a few specific ones. We looked at Adobe Express, which is a web app that you can get free access to, or a free version to, just by signing up. Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, and Premiere Pro. If you've been to any of the other sessions, some of those might sound familiar. If not, that's fine. We're kind of just going to be talking about all of them as they work together as a unit. Let me go ahead and get you guys that resource sheet. I gave it out this morning, but I've added some things, and I just want to make sure anyone who was not in this morning's session gets access to this. And just real quick introductions. I am Diego Delgado, and I am a third-year computer science and graphic design student at the University of New Mexico. And I just want to thank RAC9 and RAC6 for helping me bring this lesson to you today. I just put a link to a Google Doc in the chat. That should take you to the resources page. The top part, everything that says that's under Adobe Suite resources and information, that's just things that I think are useful for the design process and using these applications. And everything that is underneath the subheading lesson files, those are things that we're actually going to be using in our lesson today. Those are files that I'm going to want you guys to download and work with, assuming you're following along with the lesson live. Okay, let's just get started. I think that when we left off this morning, we were working in Illustrator, kind of retouching our simple little teacup design. If you weren't here this morning, that's fine. I'll just go over it again real quick, just real quick. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump over to Illustrator. Now, I kind of have cleaned it up a little bit, and I made it just a little bit more fine-tuned than what we had this morning. This is what we're going to basically be working with as our little bubble tea shop kind of logo. Like I said, I kind of wanted to go for that childish, kind of rough around the edges, messy lines, kind of like a children's book kind of energy to it. So this is the clean and updated version. And on that resources sheet that I gave you, it should be this link that just says logo. If you download that, you should get access to the .ai file or the Illustrator file that that contains this logo. Okay, so this is the logo. This is it. This is what we're going to be working with, basically. Now, like I told you, the artboard, it's white, so any white elements are going to be kind of hard to see. That's why I think it can be kind of useful to drag it out here into empty space just to kind of inspect it, make sure everything looks good. I think it looks okay to start moving forward as it is, so we're going to do that. I'm going to just go ahead and recenter this in the frame, and I will talk to you guys about how to export an Illustrator file so that we can get it the way we want it. So we have it. It's in the frame. It's centered in the frame. It's where we want it. Everything's laid out. Everything's grouped. We're going to go to File, and then we're going to go to Export, Export As. And I mean, you can navigate to wherever you want to save it to. I'm just going to save it to my downloads folder. And I'm going to call it teacup logo whole. And there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you in a second. Teacup logo whole. You'll get this little dialog box. Make sure that background color is set to transparent. We want the background to be transparent. You can pick white or black, but we don't want white or black background. We want parts that are not occupied in the artboard to just not have anything in them. So go ahead and save that. And now if we navigate to our files in our downloads folder, I should be able to open this up. And there we go. Here is our logo. Excellent. Okay. So just if I could get a real quick consensus, because that'll help me decide what to do right now. Do you guys have an Adobe Express account set up? Because if you do, you'll be able to follow along with this next portion. But if not, you'll just have to kind of watch. It'll be real brief though, so don't worry about it if you can't get it set up. But like I said, it takes about 5 minutes to set one up if you want to try and speed run through that real quick. I'm going to stop sharing real quick just so that I can navigate to my Adobe Express. I should already be logged in, so I should be able to get there pretty quick. Okay. So upon logging in to Adobe Express, you should see this. This is the page that you should be greeted with. It'll take a second to share. There we go. This is what you should see. Like I mentioned this morning, and in case you weren't here this morning, Express is all web-based. It's not a software. You don't have to download anything. But it's very template-based. It's all very pre-put together, pre-packaged like a kit, which can be good because you can make things really quickly. You're almost guaranteed to look good because someone's already gone through the trouble of making it look good. But you won't have quite as much control as the other softwares we'll be talking about and that we've talked about, just because when you're working with a template, you're given kind of limited resources to change that template. Okay, so I am going to create a new project, and I'm going to make a social post right here, this one right here. Click on that. It'll take a second. Since it is web-based, it's a little slow, especially if your internet's not so great. But it'll eventually populate, and you want to make sure that you're on the templates tab. Right now, it's just a blank document, but I want to pick a template that I think will work well for what we're doing today. So I am going to delete this where it says social media graphics, and I'm just going to type in cafe. And I'm going to scroll through here until I find something that I like. Right here, boom. Okay, this looks like the good start to a social media post. You should be able to find it by just typing in cafe. This is a free option. You'll notice that some of them have a little crown next to them. That just means that you need a premium account. You'll have a premium account if you have access to the Adobe Creative Cloud. But if not, it's okay. There's plenty of free options that look really good, and this one is a free option. So let's do that. Let me get rid of this little dialogue. Boom. Okay. So this is just a little like menu kind of thing that you might post on social media to be like, hey, come try our stuff. It's fun. It's new. Come on, like, it's interesting. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take out this Sleepy Cafe logo, and I'm just going to replace it with our own. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click delete or backspace, click on this, click backspace. And now I'm just left with the menu and the prices and the texture and the background and stuff like that. Okay. So now I'm going to go to, it's a little bit hard. It's photos. It's a little hard to navigate everything with all my Zoom stuff pulled up. Okay. So I'm going to go to photos, and I'm going to click on upload photo. And then I'm going to click on teacup logo hole, and I'm going to open it. And I'll just smack it right in the middle of our document. I'm going to navigate it to about where it was before. And those bubbles are a little bit hard to see. So I'm going to click on the background, and I'm going to increase the opacity just a little bit. That'll bring it a little, make it a little darker, make that those bubbles just a little bit easier to see. Maybe 75. I like working in kind of round-ish increments. So 75 will probably work. Okay, that looks okay. Like I said, it's not as fine-tuned as it could be. I mean, if we really wanted to get into it, we'd kind of go into design theory and pick a font that perfectly matches our pre-established designs and stuff like that. But just to kind of give you guys the gist of how all this works, I think we'll be fine with this. One thing I would like to do, though, just to kind of demonstrate how Express works and some of the things you can do with it, is I'm going to click on text, add text, and now I'm just going to look for something that kind of looks quirky and childish and fun. Like maybe in, not quotes, events, maybe there might be something fun in there. This looks kind of fun. Let's bring that in here. Let me just type in, let's call it, let's just make up a name, Bubba's Bubble Tea. And then we're going to get rid of the little date, if we can. Get rid of that box that was housing the date. And now we just put this underneath, boom. And now real quick, like in a matter of like 5 minutes, we have a decent little graphic design with our custom logo on it. And from here, you can download it, you can share it. Cool thing with Express, which I highly recommend you take a look at if you have the time, is see how you can actually use it to schedule social media posts. If you, you can use it to set up kind of an upload schedule, and you can manage various platforms and stuff like that. It's really good if you're running a business or a club or something like that, and you just want things going out in a very orderly and scheduled manner. Okay, so that's Adobe Express, and that's how we brought our custom logo that was a photo that was then an Illustrator file, or no, it was a photo, then it was a Photoshop file, then it was an Illustrator file, then it was a PNG, and now it's just our logo. And it's got transparency. There's no big white box going around it. The places that were empty in our artboard are now empty here. And you'll notice that these bubbles actually have a little bit of transparency with them too, and you can actually see through them into the back of the cup. Okay, so moving right along, we will jump into Adobe InDesign. You've got a logo and you've got a business idea, and you've got some kind of brand that you're working on. Social media posts are great, but you need to be able to communicate with the clients and stuff like that. What are you going to need? You're going to need a business card. Now, business cards are optimized to be designed in InDesign because, like I said, anytime you are designing something to be printed or organized on a page, InDesign is your go-to software. So I'm going to go ahead and boot that up. I'm going to boot up InDesign. And might take just a little bit of a second. I'd love to have all of these things already booted up, but having multiple Adobe apps booted up at the same time can be kind of strenuous on a machine. So that's why I kind of have to boot them up as I need them. Okay, close any dialogues that pop up. Before we jump into InDesign, actually, are there any questions? Anything you'd like me to elaborate on further, or anything that you are curious about regarding Adobe Express or any of the things we talked about this morning? Or the design process in general, honestly. If not, then we'll keep going. If any questions come up, feel free to chime in or type them in the chat and I'll get to them as soon as I see them, okay? So from here, if you've opened up InDesign, this should be the page that you have. Go ahead and click on New File. Now, the cool thing about InDesign is I'm pretty sure it already comes with just a built-in business card template. You're going to find that by going to Print, and you'll find all presets, US business card. It's kind of worth noting that business cards are not an international standard necessarily. US business cards might be a little bit different size, like as a standard than anywhere else. So make sure when you're designing a business card, if you're using a template that is not right here, make sure you're working in, I think it's 3.5 by 2. And I'm going to check that by going to units and change it from picas to inches. Yep, 3.5 by 2. That is the standard size for a US business card. And then I'm going to make the pages be 2. I want it to have 2 pages. And then I think we're ready to create, but I'm going to preview it first. I'm not doing much with this preview, so I'm just going to create it. Okay, so from here, this is where things get a little bit annoying. I talked to you guys about some keyboard shortcuts this morning for navigating workspace. Now, those keyboard shortcuts that I gave you guys work for Photoshop and Illustrator, but for some reason, they are not the standard shortcuts for InDesign. I talked about the zoom tool and the move tool. The move tool is the same. It's just spacebar, click and drag, and you can move around your document. But the zoom tool is control, space, and you cannot click and drag to zoom in and out. You have to do it manually by clicking control, space, and then click to zoom once, or control, space, alt, or option on Mac, and then click to zoom out. It's annoying, it's frustrating, but that's how it is. I'm sorry. So here we have our 2 artboards for our business card. And there's a reason I have 2, and it's because business cards have 2 sides. We are going to have just a little backside that has our logo, and it just looks cool, and you can kind of show it around. And then we're going to have our side with all of our information on it. And I'm not going to go in too much depth here. I'm not going to make it all perfect and pretty. I just kind of want to show you guys the gist of integrating these softwares together. So the first and foremost thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to make a background. I'm just going to make a simple background for our business card. Click and drag. It should come out to be 3.5 by 2 inches. I'm going to lock the dimensions. I'm going to get rid of the stroke, and I'm going to make the fill color. I'm going to make it black, and then I'm going to go into color, and I'm going to drag this down to about 25%. Now we will have more of just like a gray, and that might look a little bit sterile, and I would probably agree with that idea. But since our logo is already kind of sketchy and rough, I think it'll actually just kind of match. All right, so from here, we're going to get a rectangle frame tool. Now, this is basically just like the same thing as the rectangle we just used, except it's going to have absolutely nothing in it. We're going to put something custom in it. So we're going to get our rectangle frame tool, and we're just going to drag out a rectangle. Cool. And then we're going to take this and we're going to center it. We should have our smart guides popping up telling us exactly where center is. And then we're going to import a file, and we're going to use our teacup logo whole. Open that up. Now you can use teacup logo whole, which will be a PNG, or you could just import the actual Illustrator file. Let me show you an example of that. Let me just go with teacup logo test, open that up, and there we go. Looks exactly the same because it's the same file. It's just saved as an Illustrator file instead of a PNG. But it's looking a little grainy. It's looking a little pixelated. Let's fit this content aware fit and center content in our artboard. Let's make our artboard actually be the correct size for our logo. Center our image in our artboard. We can always change this in a second. So just make it nice and big and make it nice and in your face, basically, because this is the back side of the card. We want it to really represent us. Now it's still looking really grainy, and I don't love that. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that. We're going to click on view, and we are going to click on display performance. It looks grainy like that because in the interest of saving you RAM and making sure your computer doesn't run slow, it automatically sets these images to be what's called typical display, which is basically just a performance mode. If you click on high quality display, it'll show you what the logo will actually look like if you were to print it out or save it or anything like that. So I've got it. I'm going to make sure it's nice and centered. Back on our card. Boom. And now we have ourselves a business card with our logo on the back by using artboards and stuff like that. Now I am going to click on this background, Alt, click and drag to just bring a perfect copy of that background over to our other side. And now I have just a blank page right here. And this is where we would go to start filling in our actual information. I'm going to go ahead and just click out and drag an empty frame. And then I'm going to get my text tool and I'm going to populate this with some text. And from here, you could manage your bus and I don't know. That's and then you just start going. And you could make your, over here, you have your fill, you have your stroke, you have your typeface, your size, how do you want it aligned, all that stuff. And you can make real simple business cards like this. And just in the interest of time, I'm probably going to move on to some of the other softwares we're going to be talking about today, because one of them is going to be probably a little bit more time intensive. But before I move on, is everyone still following? Is this making sense? Are you guys feeling okay about all this? I haven't heard from anyone in a while, so I just want to make sure that everything's looking and sounding all right. Okay, I've got a thumbs up. Any questions come up, feel free to chime in. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to be of use to you guys. So just checking the time. Okay, so all good. Okay, well then we can just keep moving along. Actually, no, the one thing I might say is if you're picking a typeface, just try and pick a typeface that kind of already matches like the rough, fun, childish kind of look that we have going in our logo. I included in the resources document just some stuff on, I never pronounce it right, but I believe it's called the Kampferer model. That is a really useful model for branding, for making decisions based on design and really kind of coming to a consensus on the energy and the concepts that you want to kind of portray through your designs. I highly recommend looking at that when it comes to picking things like colors and fonts and typefaces and stuff like that. Really useful model. But okay, that is InDesign, and we can just move right along to After Effects. I'm just going to close this, and I don't need to save it because I don't think I'll be returning to it. So, okay. Before we move into After Effects, actually, no, yeah, I don't want to bog down your computer, so I'm not going to have you launch After Effects just yet. There's one thing I want to do, and that is I want you to take a look at our logo Illustrator file, and remember, this is what it looks like. But when it comes to animating this logo, I do not want it to move as a complete unit, because that's just realistically not how things move. This is 4 different things happening right here. The bubbles, the cup, the liquid in the cup, and the plate. All those things are going to have different physics. So I do want to animate them all separately. So what I want to do is break this up into the parts that I want to animate separately. Starting off, to start off, I want to put this back in the middle because I just don't want to mess with this at all. I'm going to Alt click and drag to get a perfect copy of my logo. Okay. And then from here, I want to make sure it's selected. And then I want to click on Ungroup, and that will break everything back down into individual parts. So there is really 4 parts that I want to animate separately, and they are the bubbles, the liquid, the cup, and the plate. So I'm going to just start by breaking those up. I'm going to click the cup, and I'm going to drag it away. I'm honestly just going to get rid of the bubbles. We'll do those completely separately, and I'll show you how. Just get rid of the bubbles, get the liquid in the cup with the little squiggle on it, regroup those. That's part of its own thing. And then we have the plate. And then we're going to go click on File, New, create an artboard about size 500 by 500. Create that. And I already have done this. I've broken it up into kind of different pieces, but I'm just going to walk through it again with you guys. So I'm going to click on all these pieces, copy it by clicking Control C, go to my new artboard, and Control V to drop them all into place. Okay. So from here, they're all about the size I want them to be. Actually, no, I want all of these up just a little bit. I just want them all to be bigger. And you can lock the scaling dimensions by holding Shift while you click and drag. I just want this to be a little bigger so that the cup about fills the artboard. That's pretty good. Okay, now from here, I want to center this cup in the artboard. And then I want to do the same exact thing again, but just moving these things now. File, New, 500 by 500, create, paste these. We'll do the plate this time. So we'll center this in the artboard. And then we'll, actually, we won't save it yet. We'll File, New, 500 by 500. And we will bring just the liquid over this time. Boom. Center this in the artboard. And now we have the cup, and we'll just go ahead and remove these so that they don't get exported. Remove this so it doesn't get exported. Okay, so these are our three pieces, and they should be all scaled to size. We've got our cup, we've got our plate, and we've got our liquid. So from here, I'm going to File, Save As on my computer. You can save it to the cloud, I guess, but I'm going to save it on my computer. Again, just to downloads, and I'm going to call it logo underscore only cup. And then I'm going to go to my plate and save as on my computer, save on my computer. Logo, instead of only cup, I'm going to make it only plate. And then lastly, with my liquid, File, save as on my computer, save on my computer. Logo only, and technically, I guess it's T, right? Only T. Okay, so now we've got 3 Illustrator files. Only the cup, only the plate, and only the T. Okay, so now we can jump over to After Effects. So let me launch After Effects. While we're waiting for that to boot up, everyone's still doing okay? I got a thumbs up. All righty. Okay, so from here, I am going to click on, oh, I have a chat, hold on. Okay, awesome, everyone's still doing good. Okay, so from here, we're going to click on New Project, and we'll get this little pop-up. I'm gonna click on New Composition. I wanna make sure it's 1920 by 1080. 30 frames per second sounds good. Duration, make sure it's 8 seconds. So just a real quick reminder, the way that Adobe handles time increments are the 2 numbers furthest on the right are frames. And then it is, oh, yes? Is there a question?
I think you're stuck on the reference page. I can't see what you're working on your screen.
Is everyone else experiencing that?
Yes, all I see is the reference page.
So Adobe After Effects did not open for you guys. Were you guys able to see Illustrator?
Yes, Illustrator was working, but when you made the shift, I can't see it now.
All right, let me just make a new share because sometimes that happens. Sometimes it just doesn't understand when you open up a new application that you want it to show that. So let me stop my share. and just start a new share. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. And you didn't let me just keep going. All right. It should, let's see if that works. How's that?
Yeah, that's working now. Thank you.
All right, cool. So let me redo that. So click on new, and you'll get this dialog, or this page to set up a new document. Click on new composition, because we're just going to make it completely from scratch. Make sure it's 1920 by 1080. Make sure it's 30 frames per second, and make sure that the start time code is 0000000000, and duration is 8 seconds. So just a quick reminder, like I was saying, the time increments are the two numbers furthest on the right are frames. The two numbers next to it are seconds, and then minutes, and then hours. Okay, so this looks good. I am going to make this, and yeah, background color can probably stay black. Okay, making it, and now we have a blank project. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is bring in all of our resources. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Import. I'm going to click on File. And then I'm going to click on Logo Only Cup. Import that. Okay. And I could technically import these all at the same time, but I'm going to do them one by one just to kind of get practice with it, so that in case anyone's following along. Import, File, Only Plate, Import, okay. File, Import, File, Only T, Import. Okay. All right, so now what we can do is we can click on all of these individual pieces, and I believe that the bottommost piece is going to be the plate. So I'm going to bring that in. And that's our plate, right? That's what it's supposed to look like. And then we're going to bring in our cup, place it relatively on top of the plate. And then we're going to bring in our liquid, place that relatively where that goes. Actually, no. Our liquid goes underneath the cup. So I'm going to get rid of those. Bring in the liquid, or the tea, first, and then bring in the cup. All right, now that's more or less what we want. So to zoom in and out, you can just scroll in After Effects. There's no fancy keyboard shortcuts. It's just scrolling. So what we want to do is, without dropping any keyframes, we'll talk about keyframes in a second, but without dropping any keyframes, we just want to line these all up nice and how we want them. So I'm going to click on opening all these, click on transform for all of them. Starting with the cup, I want to put the cup right in the middle. And we can make sure it's right in the middle by going to View, Show Rulers, and now we've got our rulers. And I want to put a guide directly in the middle. So I'm going to click over here on this leftmost ruler, click on it and drag it out. And I think that means 1920 by 1080. Half of 1920 is that 960, 110, 920, 930, 940, 950, 960. So that should be the middle. And if I'm wrong on my math, just don't worry about it, because it'll be close enough. All right, so I'm going to make sure that my teacup is as close to the middle as possible. And that's our reference point. That's what we want to be in the middle. And then we will get our plate, and in reference to our cup, we will arrange that more or less. The thing is, we don't want it underneath in the middle, because that would put the cup off center. We want it in the center of the base of the cup, which will be a little bit to the left. So I'm going to put it more or less into position, and it's wanting to snap to the middle. So I can just go in over here to plate, and under position, without dropping a keyframe, I can just move this a little bit to get some like micro movements going. And that's probably close enough. I'm just eyeballing it. You could be as precise as you want, but I just don't think it's that important. Okay, so now for the liquid, I want this to be, I mean, again, just eyeball it, just get it as close as you can, or as close as you want it to be anyway. Right there. Okay. So now we've got all three elements of our logo, all technically separate, but lined up how we want it. So now I'm going to click and drag over all of them. And we're going to have just a simple slide in animation with some easing in, some easing out, and some acceleration. Nothing too fancy, nothing, no crazy effects, just a simple keyframed movement animation. So from here, I am going to move all of these out of frame, holding shift to lock it horizontally, move them just out of frame. Okay. Okay. And then from here, for position, drop a keyframe for all of them. And then move it back to where we want it. Oh no, actually, I'm sorry. Control Z to put it back where it was. We need to first take our timeline and move it about a second in the future. I think will work well. Now we can move this over. And now we should have a nice little animation. But it's very sterile. It's very non-whimsical. It's just very flat and I don't like it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add just a little bit of energy to it. First thing we're going to do is we are going to click on our, let's do our plate first. And we are going to open up the graph editor. Open up the graph editor. And we're going to make sure that we are showing our speed graph and make sure that, oh, we have all of them selected. I don't want all of them selected. I just want the plate. Why is it trying to select all of them? I don't want them. There we go. Okay. No. Why is it showing it for the cup, but not for? That's strange. Okay. I might need to do a little bit of, oh, it took away the second keyframe. Why is that? Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that your timeline is over a keyframe. I guess that's the trick. I thought you could edit it as long as it was in between the two keyframes, but I guess not. You have to be directly over one. Okay, so if you're on a keyframe, let's animate the plate first. And I'm going to do that by just making a little bit more of a natural acceleration and deceleration. I'm going to click on this square. I'm going to bring it all the way down to 0. Click on this square, bring it all the way down to 0. I'm going to drag this in. Drag this in. That might be too sharp, actually. I'm going to put it more about the halfway point between these two squares. Maybe 3/4. Now halfway is probably fine. And now if we play this, it'll have a little bit more of an ease in, which is good, but we want everything else to match too. So over that, over a keyframe, we're going to click on the cup now. We're going to do the same exact thing. We want to have a very similar acceleration, deceleration. However, funnily enough, I don't want it to have the exact acceleration and deceleration, because if you can think of a plate sliding with a teacup on it, you would have a little bit of give, right? It would move a little bit on top of the plate. It wouldn't be perfectly stuck to it or glued to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do it by hand. And I think that that will give us just a little bit of variation in our animation to look really good. So that's looking pretty good. Our T is still needing some animation, but the rest looked pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead and make sure our T is selected, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. And we'll do a little bit more to the T than just this, but I'll show you that in a second. So making sure we're directly over a keyframe and then selecting the T, drag this down, move this to about the halfway point, move this to about the halfway point. let's play this all together. Shoop. That looks a lot more organic and a lot more natural. Yeah, I like that a lot more than what we started with. Okay, so now we're going to do a couple more keyframes. Mainly, we're going to add keyframes for rotation on our coffee cup, because if it's moving, it might have just a little bit of rock to it. So starting out at frame 0, I'm going to add a keyframe for rotation with making sure that my teacup is selected. Make sure I add it on rotation, and then go to about 15 frames in, or between 0 frames and 1 second, and then drop another keyframe, and then go all the way to a second and drop one more keyframe. Now, in the middle keyframe, I'm going to make it rotate just a little bit, maybe minus 15 degrees sounds good. And then we'll have like a shoop kind of rocking motion as it's moving, right? And then we want to do the same exact thing to the T so that it stays in the cup. So make sure you select the T, which I believe is this. Yep. And then we're going to drop a keyframe for rotation, move to the halfway point, drop a keyframe for rotation, move to a second, full second, drop a keyframe for rotation, go to this frame, make this minus 15 degrees. And it looks like we have a little bit of it not syncing up properly, but honestly, that you can fine tune this as much as you want, but in the interest of time, I think it's probably okay because it moves so quick. I think that's looking all right, honestly. But are you guys seeing how adding some of this character to the animation really helps it not be too stagnant? It helps it add a little bit more life and a little bit more dynamicness to the animation. Yes? Okay. Awesome. Well, then I'm just going to keep moving. We're going to do something a little different from anything we've done in an After Effects tutorial before. I am going to add an animation that is not keyframed. I'm literally just going to drop in individual frames that have all been drawn differently. I did this especially for the bubbles. If you go to the resources sheet that I gave you, make it look, well, thank you. I hope that you can take these concepts and use them. I mean, you don't need to make exactly this, and you can have variation in like the speeds and the ease in, ease out, and overshooting and the rotation, stuff like that. It really comes down to just experimenting with it and knowing which values are appropriate in any given situation. Growing and learning. I'm glad to hear it. I really am glad to hear it. Okay, so I talked in my After Effects tutorial about how there are two major types of animation. There's basically the kind of animation that we work with here, where we have keyframes and we define a starting point and an ending point, and we kind of let the computer make up the middle. And there's another kind of animation where you literally make very slight changes to every single frame individually by hand. And so that's what I'm going to add right now, which is something that you can do in After Effects, but it's just a little bit different. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Import, and I'm going to go to File. Now I'm going to go, I actually have it saved on my desktop in my all-in-one folder. In this folder, Bubbles, I have Bubbles 1 through 7, and they're Illustrator files. I have this on the resources page, and you can just download this folder. What this is it's the bubbles that we've seen before. It's the bubbles that we know and love from our logo, but they have just very slight variations to them to create a bubble popping animation. So I'm going to bring in bubble 1, and I think it's automatically going to try and bring it in as a sequence because it has just variations in the name. Let's see if it does it the way I want it to. It did. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it in, and we'll just kind of see what this animation looks like. Let me drag this over here. Let me make it a little bigger, just so that I can really show you. And actually, let me just turn the visibility off for these so that you can really see what's going on here. In the transform, I'm going to scale this up just kind of a lot, honestly, to the point where it's going to look pixelated, but that's okay. So what this is it's just a sequence of very slightly different frames being played one after another to make kind of the effect of something popping. I just drew every single frame just slightly different. Each frame is just a variation of the last one. Now I could have shown you guys how to do this, but it would have taken too much time. So I decided I would just give you the resource. But if I play at full speed, it's just a really quick pop, just a really quick, that's it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this in our animation. Thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying this, everyone. So we have our regular animation and we have our big pop, but I'm actually going to get rid of this version because I scaled it up way too much. So it's coming into frame, it settles in the middle. And what I'm going to do is every maybe 5 frames, I'm going to drop. No, honestly, I can't do every 5 frames because it needs to at least be in frame to be able to see it. So starting at frame 10, maybe frame 15 would be better. No, frame 10 will work. I'm going to just drop in these animations. And then every 5 frames after that, I think will probably be fine. And I kind of want to make it scattered so they don't look too uniform, too perfect. Drag in, scattered. And I might actually drag in 2 for this one, just to keep it chaotic, basically. If it looks too uniform, then, you know, that's no fun. So, and then I'm just going to put like maybe 3 on this last one, honestly. And we can even add a little bit of animation to these if we want to, in terms of just their position and stuff like that. So let's see. All right, I like that. But like I said, it's a little too uniform for my taste. So I'm going to actually give these a little bit of animation themselves. I am going to open this up. I'm going to open transform. And I am going to keyframe opacity. And then let's say 2 seconds in the future, I'm going to keyframe opacity again. And I'm going to starting opacity is going to be 0. And then the ending opacity is going to be 1. So it's just a little bit more of a fade in, basically. And I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste, and I'm just going to put these in place of those other ones. That might just look a little bit more organic. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then delete these. 1, 2, 3. Oh, they're all in the same spot. That's no good. So now I just need to move it into place. That's fine. These are actually popping all at the same time, and I don't like that. So I am going to stagger them by just a little bit. These 2, stagger those just a little bit. Stagger these a little bit more. That's a lot better in my opinion. Boop, 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 boop. All right. So that is basically using the two different kinds of animation together in unison. We can make it move just with keyframes, and we can ease it in, we can ease it out with the graph editor. But then we can always just import a series of frames and call it an animation, and it looks okay. So this is basically just the logo that we already put on our InDesign file, and we already put on our Express post. But now it's just moving. It's all the same things. It's the same exact components. We've just kind of manipulated them. The starting frame of the bubble is just the bubble we were using in the stagnant image. There's just 6 more versions of it now, kind of to make a little popping effect. Okay, we have 7 minutes, and I'd love to fine tune this and tweak it a little bit more, but I'm going to just do one last thing. I'm going to file. I'm going to go to export, and I'm going to add to Adobe Media Encoder Q. This is a little bit of a pain, but this is how you have to get, this is basically how you have to get videos in After Effects to be videos. It's a third rendering kind of software that Adobe uses. You can't really, you don't have a ton of options to export it as just a video file from After Effects. You kind of have to do it through this third party, which is, it's kind of annoying, but that's how it is. What are you going to do? So format, I'm going to format it as a, let's see here. What do I want to format it? Honestly, maybe an animated GIF is fine. Yeah, you know, I'm just going to make it an animated GIF. Okay, that'll be fine. But I don't want to render all this extra time that is not being used. So I'm only going to render the first 2 seconds. Let's make it the first 2 seconds. See, that's a real quick animation right there. I way overshot it by making the composition 8 seconds long. Okay, so animated GIF, play it. GIFs will export pretty quick. Some other types might export a little bit longer, but in the interest of time, I just made it a GIF. Where did it? I didn't output it to the right spot. You know, that's fine. So this is it. Can you guys see that? All right, cool. All right, so there's just one last little thing that we're gonna do. And we are going to open up Premiere Pro. And let's see if we can get this last little bit done in the next 5 minutes. I think we can, though. I'm gonna close down Illustrator. Yeah, sure, save that. No, don't gotta save that. And everything else should just close down. Okay, so now we've got Premiere Pro open. We're gonna click new project. We've got all this stuff that we can use, but I'm not gonna use any of it. I'm gonna go to downloads, and I'm going to oh, I gave it to you guys. I gave you the T footage. If you're following along, go ahead and open that up. I don't know if I have it saved, so I'm just gonna save it again. Oh no, I do have that saved. I do have that saved for sure. Where is it though? Here it is. I'm gonna create a I need to retitle it. Hold on. Test T. Okay, so now we've got a video project, and it's just T, and it's just like generic stock footage of T, and that's fine. I'm going to go about 5 seconds in the future, and I'm going to just plop this down here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take our logo, and I'm going to hold on. I'm going to take our logo and I'm just going to put it at the beginning of this. So import I forgot where it got downloaded to. Is it after? It's not After Effects. I'm gonna have to re-export it, aren't I? Just because I forgot where it exported to. That's fine. I'll just do this real quick. I think I can do it. I can still do it in the next 2 minutes if I hurry. That's the thing, is you got to kind of tell it absolutely everything. And one thing I did not do is I did not tell it to go to downloads. So I'm gonna save that animated GIF. There we go. Give it a second. I didn't trim it, so I'm just gonna have to trim it in Premiere. That's fine. Done. Now go back to Premiere, import downloads, and it should be in here, but I might have to refresh it. GIF. No, wait, where is it? Oh my God, here it is. Sorry, I didn't rename it, so I forgot what it was called. And I'm gonna drag this in. Didn't want to override that though, so. Right, it's in. We've got a nice little animated GIF. I'm gonna trim this down, put this here. And now we have an animated GIF that goes straight into our stock footage. And that's basically what you do when you have an animated logo and you want to put it before stuff. Of course, in reality, we would keyframe this up so that it's more of a smooth transition. It just doesn't cut straight from one to the next. But I am afraid we're about out of time here. So I probably just want to wrap things up and ask if you guys have any questions. Everyone feel good about that? Everyone maybe have any questions, comments, concerns, anything you'd like to say? This is the last session in this Adobe series. So if anything's still lingering with you, now's the time to say it. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Go ahead and stop sharing.